Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Integrity IPG podcast. My name is Jordan Pollock. I'm one of two co-hosts. I'm with, again today, CFB and other co-hosts, Dylan Wepkenberg. How you doing, Dylan?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm doing well myself. Um, Jumping into it, is there any new big plans? I know you've traveled a little bit early on, a couple months ago. Anything on the rise?
Just looking forward to good weather and golf. That's pretty much it so far in Michigan. Yeah.
There we go. You been getting out?
Yeah, a couple times. Nothing to write home about, but I have been getting out, which is nice.
Yeah. Hey, that's the most important part. I don't think either of us are breaking any records.
Right, definitely not.
Uh, but we, at tying golf and sports into this episode, we're actually going to be covering Allen Iverson, his story. If you guys are sports or basketball fans, I'm sure some of you guys are aware of what happened with him. So he was a huge NBA star, number one overall pick, pretty much an icon with, everything he went through. But if you're aware of his situation, you're also aware of the financial struggles he's
Totally.
had.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like people hear Allen Iverson, and if they are aware of him kind of at all, they know that he went broke, basically. Like, that's what they know about him, other than being a basketball player. So that we're kind of going to talk about how did that happen to him, why did it happen, how to avoid it, that whole
Yeah.
thing.
And we're both excited to talk about this. We're both big NBA guys ourselves. So it was really fun doing a deep dive into, his situation, how this happened, obviously being financial guys and sports fans and NBA guys, kind of combining the two. So if you're both interested in both, I'm sure you guys will like hearing this story as well.
Mm-hmm.
So to jump into it, he actually made over $200 million during his career, which is nuts.
It's a lot of money.
And I know most people listening will probably be like, that is money that I will never see or touch in my lifetime. So how could this compare to me? Or maybe you just want to listen because it's a cool story, but there's
or you're thinking, how did someone with $200 million plus like lose all of that?
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of crazy too. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. If I was given $200 million, I don't know if I would have enough things in the world to be able to spend.
Right, exactly.
But you definitely can.
When there's a will, there's a way. That's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So, like you said, that's the big question. How does someone struggle financially after making that type of money, right?
Mm-hmm.
And something that I feel like touch base on almost every episode is the lifestyle inflation.
Yep, that lifestyle creep comes in for sure.
Yeah, you're making whatever you're making, especially him. He had a tough upbringing. His family didn't have a ton of money, and you go from, not having anything to essentially 200 plus million.
And you think you can do pretty much whatever you want with like no repercussions because it feels like you're untouchable almost.
Yeah.
And like it works for a little bit of time, but yeah, it's not something that you can definitely continue to do for a long period of time.
Yeah. Again, I feel like that's how, us as people making a living that's not 200 plus million a year, can relate to that. Is there's similar attributes in terms of you get a raise and you start making more money down the road as time goes on. It's lifestyle inflation kind of creeps into all of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard for it not to.
Right. And kind of to that same point, something that we always talk to people about with the lifestyle creep is that you don't just become a saver overnight or like a savvy investor. It's just something that you have to actually practice at and become better and better at. Like Allen Iverson came from a little, and then he became this NBA superstar and made a bunch of money. Nowhere along the line in the middle of that did he like sit down and start practicing saving money each month or like stocking it away to an emergency fund or investing any of it. Like that's a skill that you have to actually like learn and practice and get better at. And he obviously never did. And so that's part of why you're able to earn $200 million and then lose all of it because you don't have any actual plan put in place to prevent that from happening.
Yeah. So in his story, it happened quickly. I mean, he was drafted first overall in 2003, and within 10 years of being drafted, he filed for bankruptcy because he couldn't pay some of the debts he owed.
Mm-hmm.
And it's crazy again. I know we're beating a dead horse, but like how that's possible. And with that, he had, a large entourage. So that's a lot of expenses in terms of moving a lot of people around. Everything got inflated from jewelry, cars, clothes to you're paying for 25 people to travel with you. That's expensive stuff. And this is not even just talking about career earnings in the NBA. This is shoe deals and stuff like that just gone through. And especially in professional sports, you have LeBron, one of the greatest basketball players of all time, is 41. He's not playing for more than 25 years. So that paycheck, and I'm sure he'll be okay.
Right.
But there's a limited amount of years that you're going to be getting a paycheck.
Totally.
If you live to 90, what's happening the other 50 years?
Yeah, you can't just be spending it like it's always going to be coming in, and that seems to be what happened with Iverson and other sport figures. You know, they think that this is, oh, I'm earning this much right now, this will be kind of forever. So because of that, I'm able to spend, but it's almost like if he had someone in his corner during this period of time that said, hey, like, this is an unsustainable lifestyle that you're living, then maybe this wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
If he had some sort of financial planner in his corner, then they would have been able to point him in like a better direction than just burning through all this cash that he has, you know?
Yeah. And again, that would be great to be making 200 million.
Right.
We're not, but to relate it to people that are similar to us and in our shoes is so that time happens, he, went through all this money. What's a way, let's say, we've experienced some sort of similar hardship, but our hardship is, losing our job, where you get fired, we get laid off, whatever the case is. How would you be able to survive for 6 to 12 months unexpectedly seeing that source of income go?
Right. You'd want to have at least some money stocked away into some like emergency / opportunity fund, maybe about 6 months to a year of your salary, so that if something does happen, like a hardship or you lose your job, then you don't have to sell the farm to pay yourself that income that you need for that 1 year.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely need an emergency fund built in somewhere. And again, that just comes with having a plan, talking with someone like us. Otherwise, you wouldn't know what you don't know about these kinds of things, you know?
Yeah. And similar with him, similar with us. Like, you enter retirement and your lifestyle doesn't change. If you're used to, 150,000 coming in the door and you have a finite number that you spend each year, you're not going to be like, okay, now I'm going to drastically pull that number away. Like, you want to be able to live the same life you did before you worked. So that's obviously just as important, as well as a huge chunk that, washed away a lot of his money was he got a divorce with his wife, which I feel like we haven't touched on too much in some of the prior episodes, but is really one of the biggest financial decisions of your life. And it's crazy how you can go from that amount of money to, everything split in half or however it ends up going. But it's important to understand that that's one of the biggest financial decisions you will
For
make.
sure.
And it's hard to do that because that's such a decision based off emotion and how you feel about someone. But there is stuff to, think about financially when that comes to that.
And to sort of like tie this into how might this be similar to someone like us, if you're working your job and then you suddenly get a raise and you don't have some plan in place that already says, okay, when I have money, this amount goes here, this amount goes there, so on and so forth. If you get that raise and there's no plan in place, then the lifestyle creep that we've been talking about comes into play, and all of the money all this new money that comes in will just continue to go to the same spots that it had already been going to. You need an actual plan. You need to practice saving, the whole 9 yards with that.
Yeah. And so to kind of turn this into a positive now, we talked about a lot of his mistakes and issues and things he went through, his hardships. But one of the good things he did after I think he realized he needed to start, turn things around and change things for the better is he had a endorsement deal with Reebok, and all the money he earned from that was actually put into a trust to save himself from himself, essentially.
Right.
So that money would be paid out at a later date and you'd get in increments depending on the year. How is that something that could tie into the average person similar to us and how could they utilize that?
That's a great question. I mean, I feel like it's essentially how a trust would operate within like a family. If there's a mom and a dad, and then they have two younger kids, and something should happen to mom and dad, they're no longer in the picture, and they have this big trust that sort of spells out, okay, let's say there's $1 million in this trust that we have, but our kids are 4 and 6. They're not smart enough at all to be able to just get $1 million and then know what to do with it, like at all. The trust would basically spell out these situations and say, okay, if your kids are younger than this age, then they're allowed to spend this much for college, for weddings, for a business, whatever. It has all these things kind of listed in. Same thing with Iverson. He clearly wasn't able to manage his own money the right way, so he needed to put a trust in place that literally prevented him from spending too much. It had all these stipulations, and it said you can have, this much money on this date, and so on and so forth. And it's similar to how maybe in the future you and I would have a trust set up for our future kids way down the road whenever that should happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's to help prevent people from harming themselves when they're not in a position when they don't really know how to help themselves, if that makes sense.
And anyone that has kids would be able to relate to that.
Yeah, totally.
I don't know if there's anyone on the planet that would want to give a 16-year-old kid $500,000.
Right, and then just say, this is yours now. Like, you would
Yeah.
definitely want to have some rules and procedures and check marks to make sure that you have to pass before you're able to just spend all that money.
Yeah. And I don't think some people are aware of, the complexities that can be within the trust, that you can legit almost spell out everything that you want it to
Right.
do for you.
Right.
So,
Yeah, it can be very, very specific, for
Yeah.
sure.
which is huge. And like him, it protected himself from himself or the family. You protect your loved ones or yourself as well. If you're
Mhm.
self-aware and understand your situation, there's many different ways it could be a powerful tool.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, I'd say the last, like going through this and relating, Iverson to the average person, high income obviously doesn't equal long-term wealth. You
Right.
got to have a plan in place. Lifestyle inflation is real. Got to have a plan in place. A big one, spending habits.
Spending habits, for sure.
Yeah, really almost more important than your income, because they can really cancel out however much you're making,
Mhm.
no matter how much it is. Trust, guardrails around money can be powerful, and just overall planning protects yourself from yourself and protects your future.
Yep, absolutely.
So, obviously Iverson, if you know, like I said, NBA and in basketball, he's one of the most iconic players ever. And if it can happen to somebody making 200 million, it can happen to anybody else.
Totally. That's well said. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So again, it's not just about earnings, it's about your behavior. And like you said with saving, that's all a habit that needs to be created and really forced before you're not just going to wake up one day and say, I'm good at this.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
is there anything else you want to add before that pretty much wraps everything up?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, I guess don't be like old Allen Iverson. Be more like the newer version of him, where he learned from his mistakes and he is now using a financial tool that helps him help himself,
Yeah.
essentially. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, on that note, thank you guys again for tuning in to episode 8 of the Integrity IPG podcast. We will see you guys next week.
The information discussed is educational in nature and is not and should not be construed as legal advice. Trusts and other strategies may include provisions that limit access to funds and control distributions and may not be appropriate for all individuals. You should consult with a qualified professional regarding your individual situation. Securities offered through the ON Equity Sales Company, member FINRA/SIPC, One Financial Way, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45242, 513-794-6794. Investment advisory services offered through ON Investment Management Company.